What is up, everybody? Welcome to a different kind of live stream here on Drums and Drams, and we're going to talk about it in just a second. We're going to get into it. You all saw the thumbnail and what is going on here, so whether you are tuning in live right now as we wait on a few more folks to get in and get settled, or whether you're catching the replay, I just want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for checking this video out, and we're going to have a lot of fun in a condensed amount of time. That is going to be the goal. So as I move along here and, yes, review this Bernheim barrel proof, the inaugural release, the A223 batch, I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on the live chat, but I'm not going to be able to engage too much because I don't want to get bogged down. You guys know me. Thursday night live streams, those things will go for 2, 3, 4 hours. This is a Tuesday. This is 7:30 p.m. and we've got to be off by 8. So that is the goal. That's kind of the setup of what's going on here. Yes, we're going to review this Bernheim A223. I'm also going to get my palate ready for this by, taking a sip of the good old standard 7-year Bernheim at 90 proof. So I'm going to get that poured out right now. Say hello if you guys do jump in the live chat this evening. Let's just go ahead and get all three of these poured out. You can also see that I've got the Larceny barrel proof C922, my favorite batch, in front of me. I know it's not a wheat whiskey like the Bernheims, but, it's a point of comparison. We're talking about a product containing some amount of wheat. I want to say 20%. Also from Heaven Hill. So I think, again, it's going to be a nice little point of comparison. So thanks for jumping in. Say hello when you get in here. It's good to see you guys. Mark, Shauna, Toshi, John, Miracle Martinez. Thanks for jumping in here. So yeah, the goal of this stream, obviously, is to check out this new Bernheim. And the reason is this is essentially a part 2. All right, so if you're watching this on the replay, you should stop the video. I have a link in the description below to what is basically part 1, and that was another miniature live stream that I did about a month ago called Why I'm Worried About Bernheim Barrel Proof. So if you haven't seen that and you're watching the replay, go check that out and then come back here. We'll kind of see if I was accurate or not. And if you're watching this live, don't go anywhere. Well, you can go rewatch that later, but stay around here. Let's get a few more folks in the live stream. So just very quickly, I'm going to say cheers with some regular Bernheim. I got to get my palate going. It's my first whiskey of the day right now. All right. And just kind of the quick and dirty version, why I was worried about Bernheim barrel proof being released. It has to do with a few factors. One, wheat in the mash bill. Typically, the more wheat you have in a mash bill, the longer that whiskey needs to age. So I think as you move away from rye into wheat and then into a wheat whiskey, you really need a lot of time in the barrel. Bernheim barrel proof, 7 to 9 years is the age statement on the label. And when you're talking about mash bill, we have 51% wheat, 37% corn, and 12% malted barley. So it is a wheat whiskey, but it's a barely legal wheat whiskey. Proof on this is 118.8, so a little lower proof than Elijah Craig barrel proof, Larceny barrel proof. That's 59.4% ABV. And this is going to be released, I believe, twice a year. The press release that I saw, I want to say, said twice a year instead of the normal 3 times a year from Elijah Craig and from Larceny. So if we get this in February of 23, I would expect the next one to come around, August, September, sometime around there. The number might be B823. I don't know. We'll kind of find that out together. But either way, that is what we have going on here. And we've got a few more folks. So let's get into this. Let's get into this. Sugar Kitty says hashtag lightning round. Yeah, we're going to see if we can make this a lightning round. We're 4 minutes deep, 25 minutes to go before I have to cut myself off. So taking a look at the regular Bernheim, just a really, really quick revisit of this before we move on to the barrel proof. A completely non-offensive but uneventful whiskey. It really legitimately does smell like wheat bread. It smells like honey on wheat bread. Maybe a little peanut butter on wheat bread. You do get a bit of a red fruit character, kind of like a candied strawberry note, edging towards bubblegum. And a little kind of like nondescript white pepper oak spice. So again, a great everyday sipper, kind of an easy drink in, go-to, affordable if you can find it on the shelf. This used to be allocated in Ohio for some reason. So anyways, that is just regular old Bernheim. And again, stated at 7 years old, which is not a young whiskey. It's not super old, but it's also, it's not a 4-year product. So one more sip of that. What's nice about the Bernheim also, you get a little bit of oak on the back end, and I do appreciate that. I like the fact that even though we have a cheap, low-proof, medium-aged product, we do still get a little bit of an oak presence on there. So, all right, moving on to the main event. Again, 118.8 proof, 59.4% ABV, 7 to 9 years old, Bernheim barrel proof, the inaugural release. I hope it does better than Larceny's inaugural release, which was A223. And I think that one was a complete disaster, all right? So, I'm not going to be able to check the chat too much. I'll try to, if there's anything that looks like I need to pull it up or any super chats that come through, I will be sure to pull those up. So, here we go on the nose. And kind of as I expected, I'm doing my best to not be tainted by my own preconceptions here. Again, part 1 video. Try to get that out of my mind. But frankly, this is just a lot of ethanol on the nose. At 118.8 proof, you're not really expecting to get too much of an alcohol kick unless the product is super young, the barrel quality is bad. A couple different factors can play into this. But yeah, to me, this is really coming off kind of menthol forward, a little bit of like this green sappiness that blend in with the ethanol notes. I've talked about this on live streams before, that sometimes you get some notes that blend in with an ethanol character, and in this case, vanilla, menthol, and a little bit of this green sappy note, all are kind of blending in on the top end of things, which is really what's jumping out of the glass for me. Now, you can tell that there are some darker notes, some sweeter notes, some richer, dense, those kinds of qualities to this whiskey. But unfortunately, they're just masked by this top note of, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Diverse ethanol, right? It's like, again, that ethanol with all of those kind of adjunct characters to it, or adjacent characters. So I'm going to do my best to dig beneath that quality. I think, you also are getting in this a little bit of that peanut butter on wheat bread note that I got from the original Bernheim. So I do like to see the through note of the 90 proof 7-year product to the 7 to 9 year barrel proof. It's good to see that through line. Oftentimes when you get a whiskey lowered down with, cut with water versus a barrel proof version, you sometimes actually don't find the relationship between them. It's a little bit masked because a lot of the flavors change with the addition of a lot of water. And in this case, I do find that through line. There's a little bit of a Cracker Jack note to this. I would say that if there is kind of a fruitiness, it's certainly darker than the regular Bernheim, more in like a dark cherry, burnt orange kind of profile. And some definite brown sugars. But again, these are notes that I really have to dig beneath that ethanol layer to get to. And that's kind of a bummer, if I'm being honest. $65 SRP. On secondary, these things are between $100 and $125, which is not terrible. It's not great either. Scarcity seems somewhat high. We will begin to understand what the distribution's like over the coming weeks and months. But anyways, enough talk. I'm going to get this on the palate. I will revisit the nose in a second, but it's time to taste this thing. So cheers. Let me know in the comments or in the live chat if you guys have had the opportunity to check out this A223 yet. Here we go. Wow. That is a sharp, sharp whiskey for only being 118.8 proof. Wow. What's crazy about it on the palate is just how much of that wheat is coming through. I know it's a wheat whiskey. You're like, what are you talking about, man? I would understand if you said that, but you typically don't just feel like you're drinking wheat bread, I guess. It's usually like in the background. It's something that it reminds you of it, but maybe it's not so distinct. This just tastes like you're drinking wheat bread. Yeah, it's fine. It's really drying on the back end right now. I think there are some notes in here that I like, and there seems to be some potential actually in this. With that said, though, I don't feel like A223 is quite the out of the gate showing that you would want. It really does remind me a lot of Larceny A120, where you just get ethanol. You don't get supported flavors in the whiskey itself. It feels kind of like Here's your alcohol. Here are your flavors. They're not commingling in the glass. So with that said, I'm going to nose this one more time, take one more sip, and then I'm going to throw a little water in this Bernheim Barrel Proof. I tried this the other night and had some pretty good results. So I'm going to see if I can get that to happen here on the stream. And I guess I should throw this Larceny C922 into the comparison as well as we get going. So I'm going to check the chat right now. Yeah, I'm going to check the chat and see what people are saying. Daniel P. is curious about comparing this to Larceny Barrel Proof A223. I could grab that. I mean, that is the most recent release. But I'm going to go C922. I'll see if the A223 is worth it. And if not, maybe I'll do that on a Thursday night live stream or something, Daniel. That could be a good topic. All right. One more sip of this Bernheim Barrel Proof. Second sip, much better. You know, obviously with a barrel proof, your palate has to acclimate. One crazy thing about this whiskey right now that I, in my last two tastings, have not found before doing this live stream is it's really, really sour. I haven't noticed it, but for some reason right now, as I'm drinking this, not only is it drying on the back end, but it's extremely sour. I don't know how to quite characterize that. I mean, sometimes you think citrus when you think sour or some sort of like tart fruit. I don't know how to characterize it. All I know is that it feels dry and sour on the palate. But I think underneath all of that, there is potential here. And David in the chat right now said Bernheim Barrel Proof is going to keep getting better just like Larceny Barrel Proof. Well, there's nowhere to go except up at this point with this brand. And I said last time, my conspiracy theory in the part 1 video from a month ago, said my conspiracy theory is that Heaven Hill puts out a lackluster first product. That way they can keep building on it and develop hype, which is not a bad thing if, let's say, a company did plan to do that, because out of that, we got Larceny C922, which was a great evolution of that over the first, 8 or 9 batches or so. All right, so before I water this thing down, let's just do a quick comparison to this Larceny C922. We're double fisting now. All right, Bernheim over here. Now onto the Larceny. Oh. This makes the Larceny Barrel Proof smell like it's a 10-year whiskey. And it might be. Rumors are swirling that there's some older stuff in this blend. I don't know if that's the case. But what's more clear about the Larceny Barrel Proof is that the flavor stands out over the alcohol. You get a little bit of a darker fruit note, but in the case of the C922, there's a ton of like a maple syrup, really kind of beautiful chocolates, caramels, a little bit of that peanut butter, but it's not heavy-handed. It just feels dense and rich. Very, very nice. And that Bernheim is just so light. And now that I do this comparison, the Bernheim comes off pretty sweet, which is nice. Yes, alcohol punch for sure. Yes, a little disjunct with the flavors, but a lot of sweetness. Folks are going to like that sweetness, I think. All right, so a quick taste of the C922. Yeah, that's just really good whiskey. What else can you say about that? And back to Bernheim before we start adding some water. We're only 14 minutes in, so this is great. I think moving along nicely. If you're watching the replay, you're like, just get to the point, Well, this is a live stream. At the end of the day, this is a live stream, so it's kind of hard to treat it like a video when it is a live stream. Wow, yeah, back to the Bernheim. That sourness still jumping out of the glass now. Now it's not just on the palate, it is on the nose, and I want to say it's kind of like a sour green apple. There are some notes in that Bernheim that are really nice. You can't deny it. It's just the blending of the whiskey or the barrel quality or something about it that is causing it to be a little too much ethanol, a little disjunct. So now it's time to throw a bit of water. Let's make sure we get... There we go. So a little water in there. Give this just a second in the glass. Tim Tam Slam asks, is that sour note on the OG Bernheim? I don't think so, but let me check. Well, it actually might be. It actually might be, and I don't think I've ever noticed that. I don't know why today I'm suddenly noticing it. Yeah. It's there a bit. You know, what I think it is, and this would make sense, sour, drying, etc., etc. When I just smelled that regular old Bernheim, many of you know that follow the channel that I've been drinking increasingly more wine as of late. And we went to a wine tasting last night, my wife and I, and my mother-in-law. It was a great wine tasting, and we were doing some blends that I didn't really know was in the blend. And one of them was very clearly an Italian red blend. You could just tell. To me, I felt like it was Sangiovese-based. It ended up having zero Sangiovese in it, but the character of those Italian reds were still in there, that kind of lively, high acidity. And one note that I get in some Italian reds is, which sounds entirely like false, but it's not, I promise. I'm not influenced by it. The fact that it's Italian is tomato. Tomato is a note that you get in some Italian reds, for me at least. That note is actually, there's a tomato note. I promise I'm not making this up in this Bernheim original. It's not that it comes out of the glass and you smell it and you go, oh yeah, ripe tomatoes. It's the acidity from the tomato. That kind of mouthfeel, that acidity, that I think is what that sour note is reminding me of. The dryness, that acid type note. So anyways, enough spewing notes that people are going to flame me for in the comment section after the fact. Let's go back to the Bernheim Barrel Proof now with some water added and see what this is all about. Yeah, much better. I do think this thing needs to be brought down 10, 15 proof points. And John W. in the chat, thank you. I got to pull this up. I have to vindicate myself somehow. I get ketchup or spicy ketchup notes from time to time. I will take that. I'll take that any day of the week. That's in the vein of what I'm talking about, though. Maybe I shouldn't say tomato. Maybe I should say ketchup, and people would maybe think I'm less crazy. John, I'm going to steal that from this point forward. All right, so if you have this A223 batch of Bernheim Barrel Proof, my vote, throw a few drops of water in it after you taste it neat, after you smell it neat. If you decide you don't want water, that's cool too, but I think even if you don't find that it comes off hot like I did, out of the gate, I think you're still going to want to try a few drops of water in it because it's just going to make it better. It's going to make it sweeter. The flavors are coming out a bit stronger. Sure, it might shorten the finish or reduce the palate experience a bit. We'll find out in a second. But overall, the nose is so much better. Yeah. The brown sugars have kind of turned into this brown butter note. It's a little bit more decadent and rich. Feels, let's say, a little bit more syrupy, I guess, and the notes kind of melding together as opposed to feeling like alcohol here, flavors in the background. So, cheers, guys. Let's taste this now. 100%. Throw water in that thing. Much better whiskey that way. And, us American whiskey drinkers sometimes don't like to sit and experiment with water. We find it to be either a hassle or, you should have bottled it at the proof that we should drink it at, or everything should be good at barrel proof no matter what. I think all of these things, yes and no. Scotch drinkers are much more accustomed to throwing water in their whiskeys and exploring them, and I like that fact. Often it doesn't do a lot of American whiskeys good to throw water in. I find it just makes them fall apart. In this case, this thing needs that water. So, yeah. I don't know. If I had to rate this thing, which I'm not really in the business of doing right now, I keep going back and forth about rating whiskeys. This is like a 7.2, 7.4. It's not a really premium whiskey in my opinion. I would never, any day of the week, even for the reason of like a mood pour situation, I would never choose this over a Larceny Barrel Proof or Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I can firmly say that. I just think it needs more time in the barrel. Plain and simple. All right, I'm going to do one more sip, check the chat, and then we can wrap this thing up. Top Dog says, now I'm afraid to open my bottles. It sounds like you have more than one. If you have more than one, you could always trade the other ones away. So I would still open one of them, you know, see if you like it, and especially throw that water in there. I haven't tried this with ice. I'm not much of a whiskey drinker with ice, but who knows? Maybe this would do better with ice as well. I'm not sure. All right, so I think that's going to do it. Thank you guys for checking this out. Whether you catch the replay, whether you catch it live. Again, if you caught the replay, you might want to go back and check out the part 1 to this. Again, that's the link in the description of this video. If you checked it out live, thank you. Hit that like button on your way out. Check out the Bourbon Junkies going live tonight. Maybe it's just Dan going live with Jeremy Sires. So I'm not exactly sure. Tim Tam Slam, last question. Cam, did you get your media sample of Jack Daniel's 12 this week? No, there's no way I'm on the Jack Daniel's media list, but I wish. That would be great. I only have my lonely 10-year back here, my batch 1. But thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this format, doing kind of a live review. I'm going to start doing a few more of these here and there to get content out on busy work weeks, which I'm having right now. So you will see a Thomas H. Handy video coming out in the next couple of days, and that's probably the only video for the week. I will be live on Thursday night, so be sure to come check that out. Again, hit that like on the way out. Let me know in the comment section what you think of this Bernheim A223. If you do get the chance to pick one of these up and give it a try. To me, it's a try before you buy, and it's a please don't spend more than SRP, which is $65 on this bottle. I just don't think it's worth it. Pick up a backup Larceny C922 or Elijah Craig A123 or C922 of that over this Bernheim Barrel Proof. That is going to do it. Cheers, guys. See you next time here on Drums and Drams.